The title of this topic is The Formation of Scientific Theories in Tawhidi Epistemology. Now, first of all, it's a very important topic to be discussed. That is why I have kept this lecture at the end of your course. Reformation means to reform, to renew, to revise the scientific theories which are present today in this world in the perspective of the Tawhidi epistemology. Tawhidi means the unity of one God. But let us just go and see the word epistemology. Epistemology means the science or the knowledge of scientific thinking. I will not go into the reading of the earlier part because you can read it yourself, because the second part and the third later on part of this chapter or this lecture is very important for me and you, and as a Muslim, for all of us. The Muslims were not just the preservers of the ancient Greek knowledge, but they have also contributed original works to the different fields of science. You can read this, that the Muslims have given what is the contribution of the Muslims of the past. Now the topic of this lecture is that how today the contemporary scientific theories are totally based on non-religious or on secular philosophies. The major point or the major discussion for this class at this moment is of this chapter and at the end of this semester class is that how can the Muslims revise or reform this. But before going to this, I have a small question for myself and you ought to think, and that is, can the Muslims live in today's world without science? Yes or no? The answer is no. We have to go with the science and the scientific achievements and the developments. But the second point is, but if we want to stick with the scientific world, with the world around us, but the point is, as I said earlier, is that all the scientific philosophies of today are secular philosophies or based on the science or the philosophy which has nothing to do with religion. So from our perspective, from the Islamic perspective, there is a need by the Muslim scientists to reorganize or do the reformation of the scientific theories. This is the main point of this whole chapter or this whole lecture, and that is why it is in detail of 4 pages. So let us start with this, and then what is the meaning of reformation? Means reframing, reformation, reorganization, renovation and improvement of the scientific theories and assumptions in the perspective of Tawhidi epistemology. Tawhidi epistemology means that all the sciences should start saying this sentence, that this universe was created by a creator by the name of God or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the Lord or the Bhagwan or any kind of God. So it should start with the philosophy, and then we should make the pattern of all this. This is the whole crux of this lecture, which you will see at the end, that I have presented with the help of the books and references the methodology. How can we do this? So at least we can see the methodology. Are we going to be successful or not? This is another question. But at the moment we are talking about a methodology to Islamize or to reform the contemporary natural sciences or the contemporary scientific theories. So Tawhidi epistemology means a branch of philosophies that studies the nature of knowledge, foundations, from what is that science, nature, and what are the foundations, and what is the scope, and what is the validity of that, or the Tawhidi perspective of knowledge. As I said earlier, the Islamic or the Tawhidi perspective is that all the knowledge comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the one giving us the foundations, and he is the ultimate source of knowledge, and all the scopes are open for the men or the people to search, to do research, but with validity. But the main foundation should be that all the knowledge, the source of knowledge is the Tawheed, or the concept of the unity of one God, that the major source of the knowledge provider is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The formation of scientific theories in Tawheedi epistemology is concerned with the analytical, that means logical, systematic, methodological consideration of central episteme, knowledge, science and understanding. For example, Plato contrasts episteme with common belief or opinion of Islamic socio-scientific thought. Tawheed, which is understood as the oneness of God and the unity of divine law at work in the uniformity of both the generality and the details of the world system. Tawheed in this sense is the unique and universal message of Quran to the entire humankind and to the entire human world. This revolutionary worldview of Islamic socio-scientific thought, which with its view of advanced analytical intellection, is derived from Quran and Sunnah. The works of the great Islamic learned intellectuals and contemporary comparative thought in the socio-scientific domain. In this chapter part, the second part, we will see the methodology of reformation of scientific theories in the Tawheedi epistemology. I can't read all this material because you will have to read and understand by yourself. I'll just give you an idea that these are the major points by which we or the social scientists can change the scientific theories, or they can modify the theories under Tawheedi epistemology or under the Tawheedi umbrella. Number one, all the knowledge concerning individual and group, to man and nature, to religion and science, must be restructured under the principle of Tawheed, that is, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists, one, and so on and so forth. Number two, principally the sciences which study the man and his relations with other humans have to recognize man as living in a kingdom dominated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala metaphysically and axiologically. The third point is for renovation or the reformation is the Islamic natural and social sciences should not be afraid of the modern natural and social sciences. Their place in the total scheme of human knowledge is similar, with the difference lying in the object of study, not the methodology, because both of them aim at discovering and understanding the divine pattern. The one is in physical objects, that means natural sciences, and the other in human affairs, that means social sciences. Understanding the pattern in each realm certainly needs different techniques and strategies. Number four, there is a need for a systematic attempt to assess Western anthropology from Islamic point of view. Number five, reformation of natural and social sciences must endeavor to show the relation of reality studied to the aspect or the part of divine pattern relevant to it. Number six, the Islamic social scientists are gifted for the cause of Islam. Now this is a very important message for the social scientist and also to some extent the natural scientist, Muslim social natural scientists. The Islamic social scientists are gifted for the cause of Islam. The divine pattern in human affairs should be the object of their constant attention as well as their expectations and desires. Now there's a long paragraph here which you can read here. The crux of this is, or the conclusion is, that it is the responsibility of the Muslim scientist and social scientist and student and teacher in the same manner. Number seven, the Muslim natural and social scientists should maintain an open and public commitment to the values of Islam, an ideology that lays a rational, critical claim to truth, and so on. For such a view, the Islamic social scientists are capable of bringing a new critic to natural and social sciences. Number 8, the Islam committed natural and social scientists. It means that those who love Islam, or those who have got the commitment to the natural and the social sciences as a Muslim scientist, should intensify an awareness that the problem of Islamization of contemporary natural and social sciences is a requirement. It exists. There's a need for this. Otherwise, the Muslim Ummah and the Muslim generation will be going far away from their straight path, that is Sirat-e-Mustaqim. Number 9, Islam committed natural and social scientists and scholars of natural and social sciences should be identified, and they should be asked to seek the Islamic relevance of their knowledge. Similarly, they should be given the task, with the help of ulama, Islamic scholars, to Islamize the natural and social sciences and to create an ummatic thought outside the academic ranks. Number 10, a curriculum for natural and social sciences should be developed with the complete consensus of Islamic scholars of the world to educate the human resources, and so on and so forth. You can read. The number 11, the vision of Islamizing the natural and social sciences is not only shared by few scholars, but it is readily available to anyone. Trainings and all the more intensive courses, workshops, and many more things can be done to achieve this goal. Number 12, annotated typically arranged bibliographies and major disciplines should be prepared from the both Islamic and secular traditions of learning. Number 13, bibliographical surveys, topically systemized anthologies for each problem of the area in each discipline, and all these things should be done. This is the speediest way by which we can extend to the frontiers of Islamic knowledge. Preparation of textbooks and so on and so forth. A textbook is ineffective without a trained teacher, or a teacher whose loyalty is elsewhere and whose Islamic vision is not and knowledge is deficient. This is all we have to discuss in a brief time. So the point is that the Muslims of today in the 21st century need the reformation or reorganization of the social sciences and the natural sciences in order to get the falah or the success of this world and the hereafter. Thank you very much for your time.